by bread alone. Yeah, this word got food in it. Stepping on the devil dome, you should see the bruise in it. Backing out the scripts, told a demon to stand down. Go against the Most High, we gon' see how it pan out. The Father gave me hope, fill me with the ghosts. Now they hate it when I glow. Joseph with the coat, looking for their fruit, but they ain't got no cantaloupe. The Messiah or Belial, you can't be a fan of both. Can't serve two masters. Bread of heaven with the living water, yeah, serving up a truth platter. We ain't idolizing no folly, now we setting up a new standard. When Christ touched down, make the whole earth shake like Bruce Banner. Yeah, bringing them troops to ya. End times getting spookier, warfare getting nuclear, mankind getting goofier. They intoxicated with a wine, damn, she done roofied them. I'm checking every word, spirit doctrine like a proofreader. I hate these Nicolaitans, hate these graven idols, man, I hate these flipping pagans. Trying to play my father and I hate these imitations. Screaming out Hosanna, we escape that simulation. Better flee to me, vote these or else that lake is where you layin'. Great is he inside of me, casting out this net like I was by the Sea of Galilee. Harvest gon' be plenty, but the laborers are few. Matthew 17 and 20, there ain't nothing we can't do. I can't be no lukewarm, fringes with the blue on. Devil wanna deal, but I told him this ain't Groupon. Praise to the Almighty, you know we gon' sing a new song. Hail the King of King, the ultra low, no Jimmy Neutron. If you keep his laws and his commands, then we can fellowship. I don't get with Pharisees and I don't rock with Hellenists. I ain't praising man, cause only Father get my reverence. I'm swimming in the word, it got me feeling like a yellowfin. Yeah, big stepper, Mr. Demon Chin Checker, trying to hear that well done, cause I feel that displeasure. Father pouring out the wrath, and he got a big measure. If it ain't about the kingdom, then I don't give a six letter. You got faith in the Messiah, you got power. I was clean up in that blood just like a shower. Isaiah 5, you were the vine that came out sour, but now we stand to giving glory in this hour. Yeah, we breaking them curses, fleeing the ways of the serpent. Follow his word and pray for discernment, cause they want us laying in hearses. We gotta rise up, raise and resurface, choose life and stay in your purpose. The price was paid like a merchant, through Christ who came as a servant. See, the kingdom is ready to bag, but yet somehow they chasing a Birkin. After this you ain't getting a chance, while you living you can't better search him. Gotta call on his name like his urchin, never knowing that day is emerging. So repent at the weight of perversions, judgment coming, that thing is for certain. Let's go.
Shalawam family, it's your brother Shar Ahrayahla from the House of Bread, and I have to give all praises, all glory, and all honor to the Most High God, whose name is YAHAWAH. Of course I do so in the name of his only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahawashi, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Make sure you make your way over to HIBofficialZion.com and get you a copy of the HIB, the Hebrew Israelite Bible. Shalawam, Yasharahla.
The Hebrew Israelite Bible is the first of its kind, restoring the names of persons, places, and things in the ancient Hebrew dialect, colloquially referred to amongst the Israelite community as the Lashawan Quadash. Most importantly, it preserves the Most High's name Yahawah in the Paleo-Hebrew script. The Hebrew Israelite Bible comes complete with all 80 books found in the 1611 King James Version Bible, including the Apocrypha.
All right, first up, I believe that's me. What's going on, y'all? It's your brother Zadok in Israel, man. I appreciate the Versus platform for hosting me once again. I appreciate the moderators, and I'm not familiar with the brother I'm debating tonight. This is my first time actually getting to speak with him, so I appreciate you being here, Ak, and giving your time. But to the audience at large, tonight the assignment is, what is the gospel? I have a job and this brother has a job. We have to explain what is the gospel and who is it for. And the reason why this is a debate I don't mind taking or asking for is because this is the most important thing to everyone listening in tonight and to any of us speaking. So I just give all praises to the Most High for the opportunity. My name is Zadok Ben Israel. I represent the Growing Stone of Fellowship Ministry. I run a platform here. I run two platforms actually on Clubhouse. I run the Bible Dojo and I also run Friday Night Frankincense. And man, it's about that time. Y'all know who it is. And if you don't know, stick around because you'll find out soon enough. They call me Cream Corn because I'm running things. I'm running things. Yeah, that's all I got to say. Let's get it.
All right, Brother Zadok yields the rest of his time. Let's get that 2 minutes reset. Brother Dre, you got it reset? All right, Ahrayahla, time will start when you begin to speak.
All right. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, glory, and honor to YAHAWAH. I do so in the name of his only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahawashi, who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ. All right. During the course of this debate, we will define the gospel in accordance to the scriptures, right? Isaiah 8:26, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. My opponent will demonstrate the lack of light in his speech by living and dying in the epistles of Paul, right? A Jew who emphatically states that he believes in all things written in the law and the prophets, and that he only taught what Moses, the law, and the prophets said would come. Acts 24:14 and Acts 26:22. The English word gospel appears a total of 74 times in 68 verses of Paul's epistles, none of which will directly define what the gospel is, but simply reference it, right? My opponent will more than likely muddy the water concerning these scriptures with unfounded ideas of air quote Gentile salvation and air quote Gentiles being grafted into the nation of Israel. When Paul identifies that the Gentiles that he was the apostle of and of whom he wrote his letters to were emphatically physical descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But again, the topic of the debate is very clear. What is the gospel and who is it for? We will demonstrate what the gospel is and who it is for with the law and the prophets, which is indeed the standard of light. All right. With that, again, I give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahawah. Do so in the name of his only begotten son, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ. It's your brother Ahrayahla from Sakari. All right, let's get it on.
All right, all right. So we got the opening out of the way. Now we will begin the first round of 10 minutes. Looks like Dre is on the phone. All right, you're here. Okay. So the time will start, Zadok, when you begin to speak.
All right, all right. Well, let's go ahead and get this started. Let's go right to the book of Galatians, chapter 3, why don't we? So let's go to Galatians 3 because it's interesting that the brother brought up Paul. I'm not going to spend that much time in Paul, but at least he did set a precedent for the way it seems he understands it, where Paul does allude to the gospel. He uses the Greek word in his writing, the word evangelizo, which is the equivalent of the Hebrew word basar. So if Paul is just making statements and alluding to the gospel, even though he does more than allude, he disseminates and elaborates very eloquently and very in depth. But let's actually go this route so that we can see that everything that the elder Shaul and the other apostles preach, and Yeshua himself, lines up perfectly with the law and the prophets. So we'll start in Galatians chapter 3. In the book of Galatians chapter 3, this is what the text says. It says this to the Galatians. It says, verse 6, even as Abraham believed God and it was accounted to him for righteousness, know ye therefore that they which are of faith, the same are of the children of Abraham. That lines up with, even the elder Yohanan the Immerser telling the children of Israel not to try to use Abraham being their flesh and blood father as an excuse. He said, for Yah can verily take these stones and raise up children to Abraham. So you have to prove who you are by bringing forth, the works that are worthy of proven repentance. So he says here, and the scripture, foreseeing that God would justify the heathen through faith, preached before the gospel unto Abraham, saying, in thee shall all nations be blessed. So then they which be of faith are blessed with faithful Abraham. It's kind of interesting. So he said that he would justify the heathen. So really, Paul, you really believe that Abraham was told before that there would come a justification of the heathen? Yes, it's that Greek word that he used there. That's the Greek word ethnos, and it means a multitude. And it says in the Old Testament, foreign nations who didn't worship Yahweh, the pagans, the Gentiles. Paul uses the term for Gentile Christians. So it's a foreigner who is a non-Jew, or it could simply mean nations, peoples, various tribes, right? But let's actually continue the smoke here. So since Elder Paul believed that that's part of the evangelizo or the basar, where did he get that from? Well, that was Genesis chapter 12. When you go to Genesis chapter 12, this is what it reads, verse 1. Now, Yah said unto Abram, get thee out of thy kindred, out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house to a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. So I believe that this nation eventually is the nation of Israel that comes out of the loins of Abraham. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curse thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So not just all families that came out of Abraham's loins, because all families of the earth don't come from Abraham's loins, but the elder Shaul actually claimed that this was the gospel being preached before. So now when we go to the book of Romans chapter 10, this is what it says here in the book of Romans chapter 10, starting at verse 14. How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher? Now, who is he talking about? In verse 12, he says, there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek, for the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. Then it says in verse 15, how shall they preach except they be sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things. But they have not all obeyed the gospel, for Isaiah saith, Yah, who have believed our report. So now you got the elder Shaul quoting Nahum and quoting the book of Isaiah. Let's actually go over here. Let's go to Nahum 1. The book of Nahum. So what I'm going to establish is, what is the gospel? The gospel is a word that just means good published news. It's the great message. And there is various aspects of this great message. So now here it says this in the book of Nahum chapter 1. And when we go down, it says this here. It says, the burden of Nineveh, the book of the vision of Nahum the Elkoshite. Now, what's interesting is he's actually bringing a vision and a lamentation against Nineveh, which is, of course, in that time, a Chaldean province. And he's saying this here. He says, verse
5 minutes left.
verse 15, behold upon the mountains the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publisheth peace. O Judah, keep thy solemn feast, perform thy vows, for the wicked shall no more pass through thee. He is utterly cut off. Now, when you go to this burden against Nineveh, which was a classic oppressor of the Israelite people and others in the Levant, it's actually letting the children of Judah who are going into captivity know
5 minutes.
that even though they're suffering, there's actually going to come a time where Judah will be able to dwell safely and serve Yah. And this is good news for the tribe of Judah, and let alone for the entire nation of Israel. So you know what we have here? We have established by Paul two things. One, that the gospel that was preached was something that started with Abraham, and there was a promise unto all nations of a blessing through Abraham. And then we also find that for the nation of Israel, that nation that came out of Abraham's loins, that there was good news coming to them of the end of their oppression. Now, what we have here is in the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, you have it says, the spirit of Yah is upon me, because Yah have anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He have sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of Yah and the day of the vengeance of our Elohim, to comfort all that mourn, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, and so on and so forth. Now, this is the promise of a message that is coming, and one is claiming they were anointed to come and give this message to Zion, which is the headquarters, it's the capital of the nation of Israel. And in the book of Luke chapter 4, Yeshua pops up, and at one time he's in Nazareth for the Shabbat, and they let him read from the scroll of Isaiah. And Yeshua quotes this, and when he quotes it, it goes down to this is Luke 4:20. And he closed the book, and he gave it again to the minister and sat down. And the eyes of all them that were in the synagogue were fastened on him. And he began to say unto them, this day is this scripture fulfilled in your ears. So as Yeshua said, he was sent to preach to the lost sheep of the house of Israel only. He did that mission in the flesh. And now we see that there's another caveat to his mission, which he gave to his apostles, according to the book of Matthew chapter 28, that now they are to go unto all nations and make disciples out of men, teaching all the things Yeshua taught them. And this is why the elder Shaul said, hey man, the gospel was preached before in Abraham, when he said what? He said that all nations will be blessed in thee. Hallelujah. Now, there's something else here. Check this out. Yahweh says this in the book of Isaiah, chapter 56, and it reads at verse 6, all the sons of the stranger that join themselves to Yah, to serve him and to love the name of Yah, to be his servants, everyone that keepeth Shabbats from polluting it and take hold of the covenant, even them will I bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon mine altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all people. And then, of course, if we go right over to Isaiah chapter 53, we have the signature. We have the thing that is going to what? Seal the entire deal. Isaiah 53 and 1, who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of Yah revealed? We know, brethren, if we read this chapter, that this is talking about Yeshua. That's why Paul quoted Nahum and he
1
quoted
minute.
Isaiah. And he quoted Isaiah in what? Letting Israel know that their Redeemer was coming, or at this time when he wrote the letter, the Redeemer had come according to the prophets. The report that Israel was to give of this one who was to come was also confirmed by the apostle. And then, as he also confirmed that in Genesis 12, when Abram was first called to Yah, he promised to give him this land for him and his children, and that in that there's a mystery that all nations of the earth would be blessed through this man, Abram. This is the foundation of the Basar or the Evangelizo.
All right, Zadok has muted up, so I'm going to assume he yields the rest of his time. So let's get the time reset. And Ahrayahla, your time will begin when you begin to speak.
Again, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahawah, do so in the name of his only begotten son, Hamashiach Yahawashi, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. All right, the topic of the debate is what is the gospel and who is it for, right? So what is the gospel? The word gospel derives from the Greek word euangelion, right? Euangelion, Strong's G2098, which means good news or glad tidings, and is a direct translation of the Hebrew word bashar or basur, Strong's H1319, right? So now let's look at the first place in the scriptures, right? In the prophets, where the phrase gospel, good tidings, glad tidings, or bashur, right, is rendered, right? Let's go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, right? I'm gonna start from the top. It says, comfort ye, my people, saith your God. Very possessive. It says, speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem. To who? To Jerusalem. And cry unto her that her warfare is accomplished. Right? So Jerusalem has been scattered amongst the nations. Right? Jerusalem has been oppressed by all these different nations. The brother mentioned the Assyrians. Right? You had the Chaldeans. Right? You had the Greeks, the Romans. You have all these kingdoms that have oppressed the children of Israel. Right? It says her warfare is accomplished. Jerusalem is an epithet for the children of Israel. Right? It says that her iniquity is pardoned, for she hath received of the Lord's hand double for all her sins. The voice of him that crieth in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord. Make straight the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be exalted, every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. Now, Isaiah the 55th chapter says that the word that goeth out of God's mouth will not return unto him void. Let's keep reading the words that have come out of the mouth of the Most High God. It says, the voice said, cry. And he said, what shall I cry? All flesh is grass, and all the goodliness thereof is as the flower of the field. And the grass wherewith the flower fadeth, because the Spirit of the Lord bloweth upon it, upon it, surely the people is grass. The grass wherewith the flower fadeth, but the word of our God shall stand forever. Right? It says, O Zion, O Zion. Again, Zion, Jerusalem represents Israel. That bringeth good tidings. That word in the Hebrew is bashur, right? Good tidings. This is the gospel. Get thee up into the mountains, O Jerusalem, that bringest good tidings. Lift up thy voice with strength. Lift it up. Be not afraid. Say unto the cities of Judah, behold, your God. Very possessive. Your God. He's the God of the nation of Israel. right? It says, behold, the Lord God will come with strong hand, and with his arm shall rule for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and the work his work before him. Who is this talking about? It's talking about who the world calls Jesus Christ, Hamashiach, Yahawashi. All right. Now, when you go further on into this chapter, Isaiah 40, all right, the gospel, let's jump down to verse 17, right? It says, all nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him as less than nothing in vanity. To whom then will ye liken God? Or what likeness will you compare to him? So now these nations are getting rebuked for making idols, right? It says, let's jump down. I'm going to drop that, right? Let's move on. Let's go to the book of Luke, right? Because my opponent did go to the book of Luke, which is impressive, right, on his part. But let's see what this really means, right? Luke 4 and 16. And he came into Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found a place where it was written, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. So the gospel is to the poor. He hath sent me to bound up, to heal the brokenhearted. The gospel is that the people who are brokenhearted will be healed. To preach deliverance to the captives. Those people that are captive, they're going to be delivered. And the recovering of the sight to them that are blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised. Right? To preach the acceptable day of the Lord. And he closed the book. Right? So now let's go to where Christ is quoting. Let's go to the book of Isaiah 61, and let's start at the top. It says, the Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach good tidings. Right? Good tidings, good news, gospel, same thing. Right? Unto the meek, he has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord, and the day of
5
vengeance of
minutes.
our God, to comfort all that mourn. Who is God mourning? Who is God bringing vengeance on? Well, we're going to find out. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion. So the people that are the gospel's for, it's for Zion. It's for the Israelites, right? And it entails a day of vengeance of our God. We read in Isaiah 40 about how the Most High God, Yahawah, is our God, the God of the children of Israel, right? It says to give unto them the beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for the mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified, right? It says, and they shall build the old waste, and they shall raise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities and the desolations of many generations. And strangers, right? And strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the alien shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers. Ooh-wee. So the gospel literally entails a day of vengeance of the God of the Israelites, right? For the purpose of comforting the Israelites who have been oppressed by all these different nations. Then it goes on to say that strangers are going to feed their flocks, all right, and dress their vines, right, while they're being the priests of God. Let's keep reading. Verse 6. But ye shall be named the priests of the Lord. Men shall call you the ministers of our God. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory shall ye boast yourselves. So the gospel, the good news, literally entails the children of Israel reaping the benefits off of the hard labor of the strangers, of the Gentiles, right? It says, for your shame ye shall have double, and for your confusion they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore in their land they shall possess the double. Everlasting joy shall be unto them. For I, the Lord, love judgment. I hate robbery for burnt offering, and I will direct their work in truth, and I will make an everlasting covenant with them. Who's the them? The Israelites. Verse 9, and their seed, the Israelites, shall be known among the Gentiles, and their offspring among the people. All that see them shall acknowledge them, and that they are the seed, that they are the seed, that they are the seed which the Lord hath blessed. That's the gospel. That is the gospel. There's no other way to sugarcoat it. Again, I told brothers and sisters in the onset that my opponent will start going where to Paul, right? And he's going to muddy the waters. But this is very clear and precise. This is something that Paul believes in. He believes in Isaiah 61. He believes in Isaiah 40. He believes in what Christ taught in Luke 4, right? The gospel is for those who mourn in Zion, the children of Israel. And it entails the script being flipped, where now their oppressors are now building up their kingdom. That's the gospel. The good news is for the Israelites. It's very, very abundantly clear. Now let's go one more place, right? Because the scriptures tell us, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall a matter be established. Let's go to Isaiah 52. It says, "Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion." Who's Zion again? Israel. "Put on thy beautiful garments." Right? Didn't we hear about the spirit of heaviness, garments of joy, right, being replaced for that? Right? It says, "Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city, for henceforth shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake thyself from the dust, arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from thy bands of thy neck." Right? They're prisoners. "O captive daughter of Zion, for thus saith the Lord, ye have sold yourselves for naught, and ye shall be redeemed without money. For thus saith the Lord God, my people went down aforetime into Egypt to sojourn there, and the Assyrian oppressed them without cause." Right? I'm going to jump down to verse 7, right? It says, verse 6, it says, "Therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore they shall know in that day that I am he that speak. Behold, it is I. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him that bringeth good tidings," the gospel, "that publisheth peace, that bringeth good tidings," the gospel of good, "that publisheth salvation, that save unto Zion, thy God reigneth." All right. The God of the Bible is the Most High God Yahawah. He's the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, the Holy One of Israel. He emphatically states that he is the Lord God of Israel and the God of none else in the book of Joel 2 and verse 27. Right. And the gospel entails a day of vengeance. Right. And it's for the comforting of the mourning that the children of Israel have had to endure. All right. And when they are given this good news and they are restored, the other nations are going to be in subjection to the children of Israel. With that, I yield.
All right, all right. Was it me or was he having some mic difficulties at the end there?
Nah, he
Yeah, I
was
could hear
clear
him
out.
clear.
All praises. All right. So that concludes the first round. We're going to move to the second round, which is the rebuttal round. Make sure you all are following the Versus platform. Make sure you guys are following both debaters and the moderators on the stage. So let's reset that time for 10 minutes. This is the rebuttal round. Brother Zadok, the time will start when you begin to speak.
Well, this is pretty interesting. The good brother keeps bringing up Paul as if quoting Paul somehow muddies the waters. No, the great master teacher of the gospel, bringing him up don't muddy the waters. But what I would like to do, I would like to actually quote the one who actually is above all the prophets and all the apostles, the one who the prophets was waiting for according to prophecy, and the ones who the apostles witnessed and actually bear truth of what they witnessed. As Peter said, man, when we beheld his majesty, we had to come and holler at y'all about it, right? Let's actually go to Yeshua's words out of his own lip. At least that's what we believe according to what's written in the text, right? So let's go over to where do I want to go? Okay, let's go to the book of Acts. And when we go to the book of Acts, it's interesting what Yeshua says to the Israelite Ananias. It says this, verse 13, "Then Ananias answered, yeah, I have heard by many of this man how much evil he have done to thy saints at Jerusalem. And here he hath authority from the chief priest to bind all that call on thy name. But the Lord said unto him, Go thy way, for he is a chosen vessel to me to bear my name before the Gentiles and kings and the children of Israel." So we know there's no double talking here. The children of Israel is the 12 tribes, as James said, to the 12 tribes scattered abroad, and the Gentiles, everyone else Paul had to go and bear a mission to. And I think that the brother keeps trying to, even though he might say he believe in Paul, it might be a way he explained it, because he kind of threw that, that anytime you see the word Gentile, damn near it's the Northern Kingdom doctrine. No, that's from the pits of hell. I don't believe nothing like that. And we're going to be able to prove it. I'll get to ask him some questions. But at any rate, Paul is sent to bear record of who Yeshua is to the Gentiles and to kings and to the children of Israel. Now, let's actually show you here, because now it's about who it's for. I done already proved in my first stanza what the gospel is. Now we're going to prove who it's for, because we know it's for the nation of Israel. Yeshua himself in the original 12 covered that, right? But as they continue to preach unto the Israelites of the diaspora, now let's look at something that happens right over here. Let's go to the book of Acts. Well, we're already in Acts. Let's go over to chapter 17. So while Paul is in the city of Athens and he's waiting for the brethren to pop up, Paul actually did this. This is Acts 17 and 16. Now, while Paul awaited for them at Athens, his spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. Therefore, disputed he in the synagogues with the Jews. So we know Paul's always going to go and deal with his people, his kinsmen according to the flesh, and with the devout persons, and in the market daily with them that met him. Devout persons. Y'all know how like that Gentile Cornelius, a devout man, stuff like that. Like you had Gentiles who were people of integrity, and Paul was dealing with them too. And in the market daily, them that met with him. Now it's going to give an example of some Gentiles who actually came and met with him. Then certain philosophers of the Epicureans and of the Stoics encountered him and said, what will this babbler say? Others some, he seemeth to be a setter forth of strange gods, because he preached unto them what? Jesus and the resurrection. Seems like what Yeshua said he would do before Israel. We see him going to the Jews, and we see him while he's here in Athens get approached by Gentiles, non-Israelites, who are from the houses of Epicurus and the Stoics. Now, for those who know the history, and you know, this ain't the place in the stage, but yo, y'all go follow me on the Bible Dojo, and I'll break down the history of the Epicurean schools of philosophy and the Stoics, these ascetic Greek cults given to philosophy. So check this out. They took him and brought him unto Areopagus, saying, may we know what this new doctrine whereof thou speakest is. For thou speakest certain strange things to our ears, and we would know thereof what these things mean. For all the Athenians and strangers which were there spent their time in nothing else but either to tell or to hear some new thing. This is how we know this is not an all strictly Hebrew Israelite audience. And the Areopagus is the mountain that sits on the west side, I think, of Athens and overlooks the city. And it's the ancient hill of the divine nine judges of Athens, not Israelites, but the divine nine judges who judged all matters of philosophy and even sometimes law in Athens. This is just historically known for anybody you know who know. So we'll get through all this, and Paul breaks down the unknown God. He uses it as an opportunity to preach to these Greeks and these Jews. It says, verse 24, God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is the Lord of heaven and earth, dwell not in temples made with hands. Neither is worship with men's hands, as though he need anything, seeing he give life to all and breathe into all things, and hath made of one blood all nations of men to dwell on the face of the earth. All of us come out of Adam. This is why Yeshua is called the second Adam, because his mission is to save Adam. In the beginning, the first fruits of this saving of this great harvest of the humanity of Adam starts with the first fruits called the nation of Israel, and have determined the times before appointed and the bounds of their habitation. Who? All the nations of men that dwell on the face of the earth, that they, who? All the nations of men that dwell on the face of the earth, should seek the Lord, if happily they might feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. Now, check this out. It literally says, for in him we live and move and have our being, as certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring. I don't believe that it's it's a coincidence that Paul more than likely quoted a Greek poet who was also from this place of Cilicia like himself. But look at this. It says, verse 30, in the times of this ignorance, God winked at, but now command all men everywhere to repent. He's telling all the nations to repent of their idolatry. And the nation of Israel was the first ones to hear this, because remember, they had fallen to idolatry. The curses was proof of, unfortunately, our nation falling unto idolatry. But check this out. Let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 16, in verse 25. But now to him that is of the power to establish you according to my gospel and the preaching of Jesus Christ, according to the revelation of the mystery, which was kept since the world began, but now is made manifest, and by the scriptures and the prophets, according to the commandment of the everlasting God, made known to all nations for the faith of obedience. Why do all nations need to hear this if it's not for all of them to know? Well, we know that that's not sound. We know the scripture actually is teaching us that all the nations need to hear it. And start with Israel, and then everybody else is second, third, fourth, and fifth. Let's go to the book of Psalm chapter 22. The book of Psalm chapter 22, verse 22. I will declare thy name unto my brethren. In the midst of the congregation will I praise thee. Ye that fear Yah, praise him. All you seed of Jacob, glorify him and fear him, all you seed of Israel. They will always get the first because they were the first and only people, according to the book of Amos, to be in a covenant relationship with Yah. He never did that to others. Here we go. Verse 26. The meek shall eat and be satisfied. They shall praise Yah that seek him. Your heart will live forever. All the ends of the world will remember and will turn to Yah, and all the kindreds of the nations shall worship before thee, for the kingdom is Yahweh's, and he is the governor among the nations. He's not only Israel's governor, he's the governor among all nations. He chose Israel as a nation of priests so that they could be separate and sanctified, the same way almost that Levi was chosen from among all the 12 tribes to be sanctified, to do Yahweh's business on behalf of the entire nation of Israel. The entire nation of Israel is the priest of Yah and are the ones who will teach all humanity what it looks like to serve Yah, or what? Or die. Serve Yahweh or die.
1 minute.
All right. Oh, 1 minute. You know what? That give me 1 minute to get one more good one in then. How about this? Let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 55. I think bro went there earlier, but I want to read this right here. Incline your ear unto me, verse 3. Here in your soul will live. I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David. He's talking to Israel. Behold, I have given him for a witness to the people, a leader and a commander to the people. Behold, thou shalt call a nation that thou knowest not, and nations that knew not thee shall run unto thee, because of the Lord thy God, and for the Holy One of Israel hath he glorified thee. This is the nations coming to Yah. And when they come to Zion, they're going to have to deal with the redeemed of Israel, so that the law would go forth from Zion to heal not only Israel first, but the rest of the nations when they follow suit. Hallelujah.
All right, all right. That is the conclusion of round 2. We are now moving to the hot seat round. Make sure if you have those pink
No.
tickets.
Wait. Ariella got to do his second round.
Oh, Salaki, my bad.
Yeah,
I
maybe
was going to
Zadok
move.
went first, right?
Appreciate that, Cap. My bad.
No sweat.
Ariala is going to respond with his 10-minute rebuttal round, and then we will move to the hot seat round. So the time will begin when Ariella begins to speak.
Again, I want to give all praise going on to Yahawah Shemi Shai. All right. Like I said, the brother was going to build his premise off of the things that Paul said. I have nothing against the brother Paul. What I understand is that the brother Zadok grossly misunderstands Paul and who Paul was speaking to, literally, right? So he goes to Galatians 3 and 8 as his cornerstone for this topic of what is the gospel, right? It was thoroughly made manifest what the gospel is according to the law and the prophecies which Paul believes in, right? And all the things it entails, right? So when he goes to Galatians 3 with the a misconceived notion that these people that Paul is writing these letters to are in fact descendants of people outside of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? So let's go to Galatians chapter 4, right? Galatians chapter 4 and verse 3. It says, even so we, right? Paul's lumping himself within the group of the people that he's writing to, even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. But when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth his son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we, again, he's including himself in that we might receive the adoption of sons. Well, who was given the law? Let's go to one of Paul's other epistles. He went to Romans chapter 16, all right, Let's go to Romans 9, right? Romans 9 and verse 3, it says, "For I wish that myself were accursed from Christ, for my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites." He said kinsmen according to the flesh, not spiritual, none of that mumbo jumbo nonsense that Christians spew, right? It says, "To whom pertaineth the adoption?" So the adoption belongs to the Israelites. Galatians 4, he says that we should be adopted. It's literally for the people who were under the law, who fell from the law, and that need to be redeemed or brought back to the Most High God, reconciled with God, i.e., adopted. So the adoption belongs to or pertains to the Israelites. And the glory and the covenants, plural, both Old and New Covenant, belong to the Israelites. Part of the covenant is the keeping of the law, right? It says, "in the giving of the law." The giving of the law was emphatically only given to the children of Israel. So the people at the Church of Galatians are Israelites because they need to be redeemed, who were given the law and who did not keep the law. Thus, this is why Christ came, right? It says in the service of God and the promises. Let's prove that. Let's prove that one more time. Let's go to the book of Psalm chapter 147, right? And verse 19. It says, "He showed his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye Yahawah." So the Most High God Yahawah is praised because he only showed his laws, statutes, commandments to the children of Israel. Let's go back to Galatians chapter 4, right? The same epistle, same letter to the same audience that the brother Zadok took us to in the beginning of his first round, right? Galatians 4 and 4. "But when the fullness of time was come, God sent forth his son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons." The adoption belongs to the Israelites. According to Paul in his letter to the epistles, the law was only given to the Israelites according to Paul, and according to the Psalms, it's abundantly clear that Paul's speaking to these Israelites who had fallen away from their customs. They were not keeping the commandments. They were scattered amongst the nations, followed the ways of the other nations, and now through Christ they have the ability to be redeemed, to be brought back, to hear the gospel, and to be saved. Right now, the brother was going to build a straw man about some Northern Kingdom doctrine. I've never spouted anything of the sorts. Right, the Gentiles in which Paul is writing his letters to, who his ministry is to, are to the children of Israel, whether they had fallen to the ways of the Greeks or whether they were keeping the commandments and remained in Jewry. That's it, right? Now, the brother went to Matthew 28, right? Let's go there real quick. Matthew 28, the Great Commission, right? Matthew 28, let's go to the last two verses, right? It says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you," right? Whatever I commanded you, right? So why is this important, right? Why am I harping on this? For two reasons, right? Let's look at the book of Tobit, chapter 13, verse 3. It says, "Confess him before the Gentiles, ye children of Israel, for he hath scattered us among them. Declare his greatness and extol him before all the living, for he is our Lord, and he is the God of our Father forever." So the reason why the disciples are being told to go and baptize, right, amongst all nations is why? Because the children of Israel are scattered amongst the Gentiles. They have to hear the gospel, right? Now let's go to Matthew chapter 10, because again, Christ says, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. So let's go to Matthew chapter 10 and verse 5, right? It says, "These 12 Jesus, Yahawashi, sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and as ye go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand." All praise to Yahweh Shem Yahawashi. Hamashiach Yahawashi also said that the kingdom of heaven is within us, when he said that he was speaking to the Israelites, right? So let's find out what the kingdom is, right? Let's go to the book of Micah, chapter 4 and verse 8, right? So the gospel is of the kingdom, right? Now it reads, I'll start at verse 7. It says, "And I will make her that halted a remnant, and her that was cast far off a strong nation." The children of Israel are scattered amongst the nations in accordance to the curses for them not keeping the commandments. And the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even forever. And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come. Even the first dominion, the kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. So the kingdom of heaven, or the kingdom of God, is for the daughter of Jerusalem, the daughter of Zion. They're going to reign with Christ. We can see this in Daniel 7 and 18. The saints shall take the kingdom and possess it forever and ever. We can see this in Daniel 2 and 44. Right? And in the days of these kings, shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom that shall not be destroyed. Right? And the kingdom will not be given to other people. Who are the other people? People outside of the nation of Israel. The kingdom is for the children of Israel. Let's jump down to verse 13. It says, arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion, for I will make thine horn iron, and I will make thy host brass, and thou shalt beat in pieces many people, and I will consecrate their gain unto the Lord, and their substance unto the Lord of the whole earth. Right? So guess what? This coincides with Isaiah 61, where the children of Israel are going to boast themselves, right, in the stealing, the taking of the riches from the other nations. That is the gospel. The gospel is of the kingdom. The children of Israel are going to have the ability, have the domicile as the kings and priests of the Most High God on this earth to rule over the nations with their king Hamashiach Yahawashi. Right? Let's see what Hamashiach Yahawashi said will come when he returns. Right? Let's go to Revelation chapter 2 and verse 26. Right? It reads, I'll start at verse 25. It says, but that which ye have already, hold fast till I come. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works, unto them to him will I give power over the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. As the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received in my Father. Now, what's interesting about this verse, right, is that Christ is quoting Psalms, the second chapter. When we read Psalm, the second chapter, we see that the heathen are raging. Verse 1, why do the heathen rage? And the people imagine a vain thing. The kings of the earth set themselves, and rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed. Right? Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. Right? But then you go on to see the quotation of Christ further on in the scriptures. So Christ is literally giving this power to break the nations to the children of Israel who overcome. All right, who keep the law, statutes, commandments, keep the faith in Hamashiach Yahawashi, and endure to the end. That's literally what the gospel entails. Right? Again, the children of Israel are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. This is why Paul has to go and preach the gospel. This is why the other apostles have to go and teach the gospel among all nations. Why? Because the children of Israel are scattered amongst all nations. Again, we read Tobit 13 and 3. We are scattered amongst it. We must confess him before the Gentiles. Right? The good news is for us. Right? They can hear the good news, but guess what? Their end of the good news ain't good for them. Because when we look at the gospel in Isaiah 61, we see the strangers dressing fields, plowing fields, building up walls. The same way the children of Israel had to dress fields and build up walls. Guess what? That's not good news for those people. If you told me that I'm going to be a slave, that I'm going to serve a people, right, and be in fields working forever, that's not good news to me. All right, but with that, I give all praise, all glory, all honor to the Most High God, Yahawah, do so in the name of his only begotten Son, who the world called Jesus Christ.
All right, all right, all right. So that will be the conclusion of the second round. Make sure you all are following the Versus platform. Make sure you guys are following both the debaters. Make sure you all are following the moderators. All right, so now we're going to move to the hot seat round. We're moving to the hot seat round. Make sure you guys continue to share the room. Since Brother Zadok has went first, the first two rounds, he will now have the opportunity to put Ahrayahla on the hot seat. I want to restate the rules so that we understand. It's going to be a 20-minute hot seat. The time will be called at 10 minutes, and then when it is 1 minute left, the timer will say last question, in which the last question will be asked, and then the opponent will also be able to have 2 minutes to answer, or up to 2 minutes to answer that final question. All yes or no questions must be answered yes or no first, and then you will be able to expound upon your yes or no for up to 2 minutes. The debater who is being asked the question, when he mutes his mic, that's when we know that he has concluded his answer, and then the next question can be asked. So let's set that time for 20 minutes.
Hey
My
man,
brother,
am I? Who's keeping the time for this round? Is that this me or no? Not me yet.
got you. So Dre is going to keep the 20-minute time. You will
Mm-hmm.
keep the time for the response. So Zadok will ask Ariella a question, and then when Ariella begins to answer, you will keep that time for up to 2 minutes. And if he goes up to 2 minutes, then you will just say that is 2 minutes.
Copy.
All right. So the time will start when Zadok begins to speak.
All right, thanks. So, Ariala, since I did start off with Paul quoting what he claimed was the gospel preached before unto Abraham, I'm under the impression that the gospel doesn't start when the children of Israel becomes a nation. The gospel might more of the gospel might get opened up, but the gospel does not start with the nation of the children of Israel being born. It actually starts with what Yah says to Abram. And here in Genesis 12, which Paul quoted, he actually says in verse 3, I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And Paul claimed that this was the gospel preached to Abraham before. In thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. Can you tell us what it means? Can you show us, according to the prophets, what it looks like for all families of the earth to be blessed through Abraham?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we have to understand is that what we're seeing here in Genesis 12 is a conditional, as a clause, it's a conditional thing, right? So it says that I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curseth thee. So we cannot go bypass that. I will curse them that curseth thee, right? Every nation has cursed the children of Israel, the seed of promise, right? Because that's a descendant of Abraham is not a child of God pursuant to Paul in Romans the 9th chapter, right? However, when we look at the children of Israel, right, and what was preached unto them and what was preached to their forefather Abraham, right, the gospel, the good news is that again, he will bless them that bless thee and curse them that curse thee, right? And in in thee all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, right? Of course, the nations will be blessed at a time. When the children of Israel are put back in power, when they are the rulers of this earth, guess what? They will be blessed. But that does not mean that that their gospel, that the gospel that the children of Israel receive, is the same so-called gospel that the heathen receive. Because again, the heathen will be plowing fields and dressing vines, right? Which coincides with what? With Deuteronomy chapter 30, right? So Deuteronomy 30, right? It says that the children of Israel will be gathered from all four corners of the earth, right? After they remember who themselves are, after experiencing both the blessings and the curses, right? I'm going to jump down to verse 6. It says, and the Lord thy God will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed to the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul, and that thou mayest live. And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee, and thou shalt return and obey the voice of the Lord, and do all his commandments, which I command thee this day. Again, this coincides with the gospel. The curses have to go on the heathen, according to the mouth of the Most High God.
Time.
He told it.
Yalla. Time.
Okay, I appreciate it. So yeah, I mean that Deuteronomy 30 has kind of cycled itself, as you said, conditionally over and over and over again. But you know what? I'll ask you this, since you put it out there that that it won't be a blessing for them to draw water or to like cut wood forever. In the book of Isaiah chapter 2, there's something that it says here. I'm gonna bring this up right quick. Isaiah 2. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 2, it says, verse 2, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of Yah's house shall be established in the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations will flow to it. And many people shall go and say, come ye and let us go up to the mountain of Yah, to the house of the Elohim of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we, I believe this is the nations flowing to it, will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. So when I read that the nations will say, hey, we will go up to the house of the God of Jacob, He will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. When I go over to Psalm, I want to see what your answer would be. When I go over to the book of Psalm, chapter 15, to pair up with this, I'm sorry, Psalm 17. Oh, come on now. Sorry about that. Here we go. So when I go over to the book of Psalm, and it says this here. Oh, I'm in the wrong place still. My bad, Ak, is 19. When I go over to Psalm 19, and it says here, it says that verse 11, moreover, by them is your servant warned, and in keeping of them there is great reward. When it says that the servant who keeps the commandments of Yah gets a great reward by doing them, would you couple this with Isaiah 2, that when the nations come and learn of his ways and say, we will walk in them, that in the keeping of the law, they will get reward for being obedient?
So I would say yes, they're getting reward, right? However, the topic of the debate is not whether the heathen will get rewards or whether they will be able to come to the house of the Lord and to give sacrifices or pray to the Lord. That's not what the topic is. The topic is, what is the gospel and who is it for, right? When we look at Isaiah 2, right, there's a temple being there, right? Well, who's building the temple? Isaiah 60, right? It says, and I'll start at verse, let's see, I'll start at verse 10. It says, the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their king shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor I have had mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee, who's the thee? Israel, the forces. That word for forces means riches. The forces or the riches of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee, who's the thee? Israel, shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. Right? It's clear. They have to get down or lay down. They're going to build up our walls, and once the walls are built, right, and the temple of the Lord is built, right, they can come there and worship. Who cares? That's not important. The topic is, what is the gospel, right? We look at this. We can go down to Zechariah chapter 14, right? It tells us in verse 16, is it? Let me see. Yeah, chapter verse 16. It says, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the feast of tabernacles. It says, and it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even unto them shall
Time.
be no rain.
Okay, so see what I got an issue with the way that you went about that, because it seems that what's happening is you actually had to admit that like yeah, there's a reward, like yeah, there's some kind of blessing there, but that's not the topic. No, that is the topic, because see, we talking about the good news not only for the nation of Israel but for all nations. It's clear that the gospel is being preached unto all nations, as it said in Romans 16. That the scripture that what was made manifest by the scriptures and the prophets, according to the commandment of the everlasting God, made known to all nations for the obedience of faith. This is the good news for all humanity. But since it seems that you admit that, hey, it's like they could come and they can come and worship. When we go to the book of Revelation 21, because what we're not going to do, we're not going to make only what's said by the prophets. The gospel starts and ends with them. No, they spoke, they saw in part, and they spoke in part. Or, and as the apostle said, that they were revealing the things that the fathers before them were waiting to see and never got the chance to even get to witness. So we know that the establishing and the proof that what the prophets say is coming forth is established by Christ and through the witness of his apostles. So in the book of Revelation, chapter 21 and verse 24, it says, and the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it. It's talking about this city. And the kings of the earth do bring their glory into it, and the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night there, and they shall bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. Brother, it said, and the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it. Who are the nations that are saved that get to walk in and out of this city? And what is that salvation?
Okay, so again, this I'm glad you went here. Revelation 21 literally is quoting Isaiah the 60th chapter, which entails the heathen building up the walls and bringing their riches to the children of Israel. So thanks for helping me out. Right now, the salvation that we see, all right, in the scriptures that's promised to the children of Israel, the word there is G4991 soteria, right? Soteria, right? And we can see this used in Luke the first chapter of Zechariah, who says, "Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, for he hath visited and redeemed his people, and have raised up a horn of
10
salvation
minutes.
for us in the house of his servant David." When we look at Revelation 21, this word for saved, it's not the same word. It's Strong's 4982 so, right? So these people are being preserved. Preserved for what? To literally build up the infrastructure of the kingdom of Israel, right? To literally build up their walls, to dress their fields, to plow their fields, right? To serve the children of Israel. That's literally what it is. So if you tell me, hey, these people, they're going to be exalted above everyone else, and everyone else has to serve them. And if I'm the people that have to serve, that's not good news to me. That sounds like a shitty deal. That sucks. I don't want that. So again, you're asking me all these questions about who can pray to God and this, that, and the third, and blah, 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 blah. Again, that's not what the topic is. The topic is, what is the gospel? And again, the gospel entails the heathen building up the walls for the Israelites, serving the Israelites, point blank, period.
Okay, well, it seems that, brother, like I said, you got this Northern Kingdom doctrine, Southern Kingdom doctrine, and anytime you see something that makes it look almost good, you have to admit that the wording is showing a reward. Now, what's interesting is walking into this city, you have to be in a certain condition because Yahweh said, nothing that defiles or nothing that commits abomination shall be allowed in his city. So when the saved of the nations walk in and out of this city and bring their glory, they got glory to bring into it. Brother, it is not just for those who are going to live in the land of Israel. According to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 47, we see the boundaries that the children of Israel will totally have control over. And yes, it says that the stranger who wants to come and live in the land, whatever tribe he want to live among, that's where the Israelites to give him space to live. But there are still nations on the earth. There are still other countries on the planet, and people will come year to year from their countries, month to month, week to week, from their countries to the land. And if they're living forever, according to Revelation 22 and 1, 22 and 2, in the midst of the street of it, that's this same city, on either side of the river, there was the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations, and there shall be no more curse. Brother, here the nations are having access to the tree of life, and they are being healed, and there will be no more curse. That's what they get as they get to come into this city. Is that not the promise of the gospel for Israel first and then to everyone else?
No, that is not the gospel, right? And what you just demonstrated is that you have a fundamental misunderstanding of the Bible in totality, especially Revelation 21. This city is not a literal city that's coming down out of heaven. Who the world calls Jesus Christ says, the kingdom of heaven cometh not by observation. They will not say lo here and lo there, right? But the kingdom is within you. When he said that, he was speaking to the Israelites. Again, what is the kingdom? The kingdom is Micah chapter 4 and verse 8, right? Micah 4 and 8. It says, give me a second. Micah 4 and 8. It says, "And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem." So the children of Israel, that's the kingdom. We are the kingdom, right? We're going to have rulership and dominion over these people. We're going to teach them of our ways, right? The book of Zechariah says that 10 men of all nations are going to take the skirt of him that is a Jew and say, "Let us come with thee, because we heard God is with you." So we're going to be teaching these people of our ways. Them learning the law, that's them getting healed. But guess what? According to the law, the law literally said that the children of Israel can enslave the heathen, right? So again, them being able to come and bring their glory or their forces or their riches to us is not good news for them, right? It's not. It's not the gospel. The gospel is that we are going to be delivered, that we're going to be exalted over these people, that these people have to serve us, right? They have to get down and lay down. The nation in the kingdom that will not serve thee shall die. They have no choice but to serve them. That sounds like a lopsided deal, right? That sounds like, hey, I don't want any parts of that if I'm on the wrong side of that thing, right? So your questions are just not aligned with the topic. You're talking about different things that have nothing to do with the topic at hand, which is the gospel, and we've emphatically proven what the gospel is through the prophecies.
Well, I would say that you're mistaken, sir. No, I'm cornering you. This is all about the gospel. You know how in the book of Psalm, chapter 10 and verse 18, where it talks about how Yahweh will destroy the heathen, they will perish out of his land, and he is king forever and ever, and he will judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. You making it sound like Israel just gonna be the top oppressor on the planet. But you know they won't be, because you said we're going to teach them our ways. If your ways are obedience, and the nations are going to learn that obedience, if they're obedient, they're straight. And if they're disobedient, then they got problems, because Messiah going to rule with a rod of iron, right? But I want to ask you something right quick. Let's go over to the book of Luke chapter 4, because I took you there earlier. I think that was the first text I read when Yeshua was talking, quoting out of Isaiah chapter, 61. So when we go to Isaiah 61, let's actually see what happened with Yeshua, because he's in his own hometown and he actually preached this, right? So it says, and they bear him witness and wondered at the gracious words that proceeded out of his mouth, and said, is not this Joseph's son? Then he wowed on him. He said, you will surely say to me this proverb, physician, heal yourself. Whatsoever we have heard done in Capernaum, do also here in your country. He said, I say to you, no prophet is accepted in his own country. But I tell you a truth. Many widows were in Israel in the days of Elijah, when the heaven was shut up 3 years and 6 months, when great famine was throughout all the land. But unto none of them was Elijah sent, except unto Sarepta, a city of Zidon, unto a woman that was a widow. And many lepers were in Israel in the time of Elisha the prophet. And none of them was cleansed, except Naaman the Syrian. And they in the synagogue, when they heard these things, were filled with wrath, and they really thought they was about to throw Jesus off the cliff head first. Brother, when we read this here, and Yeshua gives this prophecy unto the children of Israel, could you exegete for us right quick what you understand this to be? What was the message here to his hometown of Nazareth?
What you just read is literally zero prophecy. He's recalling an account in history that's not prophecy. Prophecy is to speak before something happens, right? Again, I don't care about a Syrian who was healed or had a blessing. That's not what the topic is about. The topic is about what is the gospel, who is it for, right? Again, the kingdom of heaven, the gospel is of the kingdom. In the kingdom, the children of Israel will rule over the nations, will rule over them. That's it. That's the gospel is us ruling over these people. So you're asking me really irrelevant questions that have nothing to do with the topic, and you're trying to find all these little caveats and points in history where, oh, this heathen was blessed and this heathen was, had found favor, this, that, and third. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the gospel, and the gospel entails the heathen serving the Israelites. Point blank, period.
Okay, it seems like you want to avoid my question and answer it and answer it as if it don't matter what I'm saying. I understand the gospel profoundly, good brother. And I think what you did there was a straight smoke screen. You know how the octopus throw the ink this way so he can dash that way? That's just what you did there. But what I would tell you is that Yeshua was letting it be known that in all the blessing that could come on the people of God when they reject the prophet will eventually even go and bless the strangers. That's what that means, good brother. But you know what? I want to actually put something else on the table to you before we out of here. Now, you said that, hey, the gospel is simply that we're going to rule over everybody. I ain't got no problem with Israel ruling, but how Israel rules will actually be paramount. Is that not right? So when we go here, good brother, let's go over to the book of wait, which one is that? Hold on. I just had it in front of me. Forgive me. Come on, where's that text at?
1 minute.
1 minute. Hold on. I got to find that text. Where you at? Where you at, text? Where you at? Oh, there it go. in the book of Isaiah, chapter 19 and 24, as we see that Yahweh blesses, because the gospel isn't just about Israel ruling, but first it is about Israel being redeemed. And we know that according to Isaiah 56, that Yahweh was going to bring more with Israel who would come and honor him, because his house will be called a house of prayer for all people. And here in Isaiah 19 and 23, in that day, there shall be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrian will come into Egypt, and the Egyptian into Assyria, and the Egyptians will serve with the Assyrians. And in that day shall Israel be the third with Egypt and with Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land, whom Yahweh of hosts shall bless, saying, blessed be Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of my hands, and Israel, my inheritance. So isn't, brother, the gospel that Israel is in lockstep with Yah as his inheritance again, and you see that other people will also be accepted with
Time.
Yahweh?
Ariella will be able to answer that question.
Okay, so again, this is just another demonstration of your fundamental lack of understanding of the scriptures. All right, when we look at Isaiah 19, this is not talking about literal Egyptians or literal Assyrians, right? The children of Israel were scattered amongst the heathen, right, and then acted as a heathen. This is why we see in the New Testament them being called Greeks, right? We see this in John 7 and 35, right? But anyway, when we look here in Isaiah 19, right? Let me see this real quick. This is give me 1 second. Where we at? What verse? Yeah, verse 18. It says, in that day shall 5 cities in the land of Egypt speak the language of Canaan. What does that mean? Right? What's the language of Canaan? The language of Israel, Hebrew, right? So in 5 cities, right, in the land of Egypt, speak the language of Canaan and swear unto the Lord of hosts, one shall be called the city of destruction, right? I need to see Egyptians now speaking the language of Canaan, right? That's not happening. All right, and then we see this talk about a highway coming out of Assyria, all right, and out of Egypt. When we go to Isaiah the 11th chapter, right, this is what this coincides literally with that, right? So I'll start at verse 11. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand against the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt, right? And from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the isles of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the 4 corners of the earth, right? Jumping down to verse 16. Actually, verse 15 says, the Lord shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea with his might, and shall shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in 7 streams, and make men to go over dry shod. And there shall be an highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left
Time.
from Assyria, like as it was in Israel in the day when they came out of the land of Egypt.
Time. Time.
All right, all right. So now we will move to Ariala's hot seat round, where he will have 20 minutes to put Zadok on the hot seat. Just to reiterate the rules, all yes or no questions must be answered yes or no, and then you have up to 2 minutes to expound on any of the questions that are answered. Also, I do want to say, do not answer questions with questions. All right, Ariala, the floor is yours.
Kind, all praise to the Most High. Again, give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shem Shai. All right. First question from our brother Zadok. Do you agree that Isaiah 61 is the gospel? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, is it good news that other people are going to be slaves to the Israelites? Is that good news for them? Yes or no?
Well, yes, it is good news for them. And the reason that it is because the nations have to actually respect the order of Yahweh. So when we actually go over to Isaiah 61, let me show you this. See, the whole thing is this, is that the order of Yah and how he wants to set up for the nations to actually serve him and follow Israel's example, it's a beautiful thing. So when it says here in verse 5, the strangers will stand and feed your flocks, and sons of the alien will be your plowmen and your vine dressers, and you will be called the priests of Yah. Men shall call you the ministers of our God, then this is a good thing for the stranger, to the point that the book of Ezekiel chapter 47 actually says these strangers will get inheritance in your land if they come and decide to live there. See, the Israelites ain't gonna force the entire planet and all ethnic groups to live just within the boundaries of Ezekiel chapter 47. Y'all know the boundaries from verse 13 down to the end of verse, what verse is that? Oh, verse 20. That entire area will not inhabit all of humankind. So there has to be context here, but check this out, verse 21. So shall you divide this land to you according to the tribes of Israel, and it shall come to pass that you will divide it by lot for you for an inheritance to you, and to the stranger that sojourn among you, which shall beget children among you. And they shall be unto you as born in the country among the children of Israel, and they shall have inheritance with you. They shall have inheritance with you among the tribes of Israel. And it shall come to pass that in what tribe the stranger sojourns, there you shall give him his inheritance. That's for the strangers who will live in your land, but not all the planet will live in Israel's country. So yeah, brother, it's a good thing for the ones who come here to live in the country that's the example of non-oppression. That's the example of obedience. They'll be like Solomon's servants, man. They'd be so happy the Queen of Sheba be like, man, even your servant smiling.
Okay, well, that didn't really answer my question, but nice try trying to make the strangers in Ezekiel 47 to be actual heathen. All right, you alluded to earlier Isaiah the second chapter, which says that the law shall go forth out of Zion. According to the law of God, possession of the land cannot pass between tribes. But you want me to believe that possession of the Holy Land that was promised to Abraham, to his seed Isaac, and to his seed Jacob is somehow going to heathen? You're sadly mistaken. But anyway, right? Let's go to um, let's go to the book of Hebrews 4, right? Hebrews 4 and verse 2, right? It reads, for unto us was the gospel preached, as well as unto them, but the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. Right. So my question is, who are the them that the gospel was spoken to according to the writer of Hebrews?
Well, the writer of, excuse me, the writer, man, this is a great question because I should have actually brought this up on my turn, but now you give me the chance to teach y'all about it. So here in the book of Hebrews, chapter 4, the book is written to the Hebrews. It's the only book that's written to an actual ethnic group. Hebrews ain't a city like Rome. Hebrews ain't a city like Philippi. Hebrews ain't a city like Ephesus. Hebrews ain't a city like Colossae. So this letter being written to the Hebrews exclusively, the writer of Hebrews is telling you that the Israelites in the wilderness and those who were with them fell short, and that you don't want that to happen to you. So when we go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 29, we'll actually show Moshe by his own lip tells us who actually this thing was for and who the gospel was preached unto. So it says here in what is this? Oh, Hebrews, I said Hebrews, Deuteronomy 29 verse 9. Keep therefore the words of this covenant and do them, that you may prosper in all that you do. You stand this day, all of you, before the Lord your God, the captains of your tribes, your elders, and your officers, with all the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, and the stranger that is in the camp, from the hewer of the wood to the drawer of thy water, that you should enter into covenant with Yah, into his oath, which Yah your Elohim make with you this day, that he may establish you a people to himself, that he may be God to thee, as he hath said to thee and sworn to your fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Neither with you only do I make this covenant and with this oath, but with him that stands here with us today before Yahweh our Elohim, and also with him that is not with us this day. So when the writer of Hebrews was referring to the covenant, Moses is clearly telling us the Israelites by blood and those strangers who were there with them were those who were to enter into that covenant. And that's the same way it's going to be under this new covenant, good brother.
Okay, nice try trying to make the strangers there heathen that are entering into the covenant. That's crazy, right? Because when we read Deuteronomy, the first chapter, it says that these are the words that Moses spake to all Israel. So the people, the you that's being spoken to in Deuteronomy 29 is Israel, right? Not the heathen. The heathen are not taking hold of the covenant. And Paul, who you love, right? I love as well, says that the covenants, plural, both belong to the children of Israel. But anyway, right? Let's go to so with that said, right? So the them are the Israelites that were in the wilderness, right? Where in the wilderness did the Israelites hear the gospel? Can you show me what book, chapter, verse?
Well, the entire thing that they heard was the gospel, because it was the good news of salvation. I'll actually take you right here. Let's go to, I think it's Deuteronomy. Here in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 5, it says, verse 1, and Moses called all Israel and said unto them, hear, O Israel, the statutes and judgments which I speak in your ears this day, that you may learn them and keep them and do them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us in Horeb. The Lord did not make this covenant with our fathers, but with us, even us who are all here alive today, this day. So Moshe is letting them know, hey, everything here that you're seeing and hearing, this law and everything that's being given to you to go into the land of promise, this is the gospel. Why? Because remember, good brother, that in the beginning when I shared what Paul had quoted, Paul actually quoted that the gospel was before preached unto Abraham. Now, he quoted the part about all nations being blessed, but we know that it started with Abraham getting that land. So the good news for the children of Israel was freedom out of Egypt and being brought back to that land, according to, as Moses was to tell them in Exodus, the land that Yahweh promised your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That is the good news for the children of Israel at that time.
Okay, so the gospel, right, that they were preached was Deuteronomy 30, right? And in Deuteronomy 30, it says that the children of Israel will remember themselves among all the nations which they were scattered, right? After they experience both the blessings and the curses. And in verse 7, that the curses will go on the people that hated them. Okay, so my question for you is, how is the good news for all people if the heathen have to be cursed when the children of Israel are brought back to the land of Israel?
Well, I think that the way that you're reading that you might be off in the way that you're perceiving that. Let me go there right quick, good brother, because that's a fair question, but it all depends on the way that you read Deuteronomy 30. You know how when I went to what Yeshua said in Luke 4, and you said, hey, well, that wasn't a prophecy, it was conditional, even though he actually did say a prophecy at first. He said, you shall speak this proverb. And then he told them what they would say. And then he quoted some things from the past. But when you point out here in Deuteronomy 30 that the children, that when Yahweh turns their captivity and have compassion on them and return and gather them from all nations where he scattered them, if any of yours be driven to the outmost parts of heaven, from there where Yahweh gathered thee, and from there will he fetch thee. And then it turns around and says in verse 7, and Yahweh will bring all these curses upon your enemies and on them that hate you, which persecuted you. So we see that when the Assyrian had oppressed the children of Israel and put them in captivity, we know that Yahweh allowed a lot of the children from the remnant of the 12 tribes, or well, the northern kingdom, to come back into the land. And he punished the Assyrians with the same curse. We know that the Babylonians, the Chaldeans had them. And then we see that Yahweh, through the mouth of Jeremiah, announces what the curse and punishment will be on the Babylonians once what? The children of Israel are finished serving their sentence. And truly, as Yahweh spoke, every nation that oppressed Israel, there was a curse and a punishment from Yahweh on them, on all their enemies. It happened to the Grecians, and lastly, it happened to the Romans. And so I believe this is the cyclical nature of this promise to Yahweh. Every time he put Israel off the land and gathered them from wherever he put them, you see the immediate
10
punishment and
minutes.
destruction of the nation who oppressed them.
Okay, so again, nice try, right? This is very clear and cut, right? It's going to come to pass when all these things come upon me, the blessing and the curse, right? That the Lord has set up before the children of Israel, right? It says, um, it says, and shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, that thou and thy children with all thy heart and with all thy soul, that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity. Turning the captivity means delivering them from captivity. So the children of Israel have to remember themselves. They have to start keeping the commandments, teaching their children to keep the commandments, and then the Lord will turn their captivity and have compassion upon thee, and I will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. The children of Israel were not all scattered to Assyria. The children of Israel were not all scattered to Babylon, right? So you go into these places, do not fit this prophecy, right? It says, if any of thine be driven to the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And the Lord thy God will bring thee, who's the thee? The collective nation of Israel. The children of Israel, meaning the northern kingdom, went into Assyria. The children of Judah, the southern kingdom, went into Babylon, right? The children of Israel, the northern kingdom, did not go under the captivity of the Babylonians. They did not go under the captivity of the Greeks. They did not go into the captivity of the Romans. They were not there, right? So it says, wherever the Lord has scattered all of you, there he's going to gather us from the lands in which he scattered us. It says, and he will do good, do thee good, and multiply thee above thy fathers, and the Lord thy God. So again, this is happening after they're brought back from the lands in which they were scattered. It says, and the Lord thy God will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed, to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. Now, when we look at the scriptures, right, First Maccabees 2:10 says, what nation have not had part in her kingdom or in gotten of her spoils? All nations have cursed the children of Israel, have in somehow, way, shape, or form or fashion had part in her kingdom, right? So guess what? They all have to experience the curses of Deuteronomy the 28th chapter, right? So again, it's very abundantly clear, right? Can you demonstrate how the curses, which includes slavery, which includes yokes of iron, right, which includes building houses that are not yours, that you won't dwell in, how that is good news for someone who was an enemy of Israel that has to get these curses put on them? Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, I can explain it for you, good brother. See, once again, you're making that statement in Deuteronomy 30. You're making the context of the chapter about one time that Israel found themselves in captivity. But in through this entire text, good brother, we can actually see how the Most High punished nations who did evil unto Israel. So let's go to a text right quick, so I could give you an example, right? We're going to go to the burden of all the nations. Here we go. Jeremiah chapter, what is it? I think it's 23. Let's go to Jeremiah 23 right quick. Let me show you some. So in the book of Jeremiah chapter 23, here we go. Yahweh says, wait, hold on. That's not it. Oh, nope, chapter 25. Sorry about that. Jeremiah chapter 25. So he's going to actually send the prophet unto a nation who is destroying Israel. At this time, the children of Israel would be in Babylon. So look at this, verse 12. This is Jeremiah 25 and 12. And it shall come to pass when 70 years are accomplished that I will punish the king of Babylon and the nation, and that nation, saith Yah, for their iniquity, in the land of Chaldeans, and will make it perpetual desolations. And I will bring upon that land all my words which I have pronounced it, even all that is written in this book, which Jeremiah hath prophesied against all the nations. For many nations and great kings shall serve themselves of them also, and I will recompense them according to their deeds and according to the works of their own hands. For thus saith Yahweh, the God of Israel, to me, take the wine cup of this fury at my hand and cause all the nations to drink, who I'm going to send you to drink it, and they will drink and be moved and be mad because of the sword that I will send among them. Then I took the cup out of Yah's hand and made all the nations to drink to whom he sent me, to wit, Jerusalem and the cities of Judah and the kings thereof and the princes, to make.
Okay, so again, that was a horrible answer. Again, let me ask this question, right? Brother Zadok, right? On June 19th, 1865, right? When our ancestors who were slaves there, who had to work in fields, right, in 105-degree weather, right, sun up to sundown, right, providing free labor to Massa, right? Was it good news for Massa that his free labor was going to now be free and he can't exploit them of their labor anymore, or was it good news for the slaves that were now emancipated and now freed?
Well, it was good news for both, and I'll tell you how. The Emancipation Proclamation, the word emancipate doesn't just mean to free, but the word emancipate also means to transfer ownership of a thing from one person to another. So what happened was in the Emancipation Proclamation, the Democratic planter class of the South actually were by force made to give their free labor to the Union states and to give up their weapons of war and become members of the Union. Now, when they gave ownership of their Negroes to the Union set certain conditions for the Negro. At first, Abraham Lincoln was thinking of sending all niggas to Haiti. But eventually, we know some left and went to Liberia and established Freedom Land. But for the rest who were here, you know what happened? The planter class of the South, while the Negro was taken out of their physical possession, now they were allowed to start the carpetbagger era, and they were also allowed to start the Jim Crow era. And so they were still, by law, allowed to oppress the Negro a different way and get free labor out of the Negro by the 13th Amendment and also sharecropping. So it was still good news for them because basically they weren't destroyed by the Union. They actually became one country, and it still took another 100 years for Negroes to even get the right to vote. And so the Union and the Confederacy became one. So the Negro, while he felt free walking up the roads, we're still in this country today saying that this thing ain't been the best thing for us. And that's why brothers like yourself and me be out in these streets on these corners still preaching the current oppression of our people and not a true freedom. So it still looked like it's been good for the so-called oppressor to this point, in my
Okay,
opinion.
so I asked you nothing about the Emancipation Proclamation. The Emancipation Proclamation was in 1863. I asked you about June 19, 1865, 2 years later. I asked you about that specific situation where we got our ancestors on cotton fields, whatever type of crop fields, right? Working sun up to sundown. Was it good news for them that they are now free, or was it good news for the slave master who had an opportunity to exploit these people with free labor? You're talking about 13th Amendment and all this other, I asked you nothing of the sort. So I want the record to show that he did not answer my question. So again, who's the news more good for? Is it more good for the laborer being freed, or more good for, or is it a better news for the person that's losing their free labor, losing their competitive advantage? Who is that news better for or good for?
Well, the news would be good for the freed slave if he was actually free. Now, what's interesting is, and thank you for the correction, brother, because you were talking about the result of the so-called freedom. So sharecropping was not good news for our people. The Jim Crow era, the carpetbagger era,
1 minute.
Reconstruction period was not good for our people. So technically, put it like this: if a people are truly free and let go totally from the hand of their oppressor, then that truly is good news for them. But what I'm saying to you is, if you're not truly let go by your oppressor, but you've been given false policy, then it's fake good news. So what you brought up was the result of fake good news for our people in the example you asked me. So it probably would have been better for you to give a different kind of example, because I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the sharecropping era that followed the Emancipation Proclamation. And until this day, you got about a good 24 million acres of land that Negroes is still trying to get back from that time, because while they were let go off the plantation, they were not let go out of the boundaries of the colonies of their oppressors.
All right, again, I asked nothing about sharecropping. I asked nothing about that. I love how you evaded the question. But anyway, right? So you went to
Time.
Isaac. That complete time?
Yep, that's the time. That is the
All praises.
complete time. So now we will move to the conclusion. We'll move to the last 2 minute conclusion, where both debaters who've done an excellent job will state what they feel, they believe that they taught and conveyed to the people for 2 minutes. We'll start with Brother Zadok.
Hey, I appreciate once again this joust tonight. I appreciate the Versus platform. I appreciate the audience tuning in, and I appreciate Ahrayahla for bringing his belief and being real clear with his position by showing me in the text. So, but I believe that I clearly showed tonight what the 2 points of this debate. What is the gospel, and who is it for? So, as the brother clearly understood where I started, we literally saw that the apostle Shaul had actually told us in the book of Galatians that the gospel was preached before unto Abraham, saying, in thee shall all nations of the earth be blessed. And then we followed that up with what? Isaiah chapter 57 and Isaiah chapter 56 and Isaiah chapter 53, showing how the Most High told the nation of Israel that he would redeem them from the penalties that they suffered under the curses, and how he would bring them back to their land, and how they would be what? The head of nations, and they would be the priests. As a matter of fact, it says the Gentiles will call you. This is the good news for the nation of Israel. You know what all the nations gonna call you now? Instead of calling us nothing but niggas and calling us this, that, and the third, and every pride word and a proverb and byword under the nation, like we are the tale of nations. No, when we're the head again, the nations will rightly call Israel who they supposed to have been the whole time: the priests of Yahweh, the ministers of the true Elohim. And that is good news for the nation. But we also know that good news for the rest of the sons of Adam is what? That what Yahweh had for the rest of the sons of Adam through Abraham, y'all know all the nations of the earth being blessed, is this: you'll have the opportunity to repent. You'll have the opportunity to come to Zion. And when they see the opportunity, the scripture says in the book of Isaiah chapter 2, the nation's going to willingly come. Many people come and saying, man, we going up to the house of the God of Jacob.
All right, we'll have Brother Ariala's last 2 minutes.
Khan, again, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahawah, basham, Yahawashi. During this debate, what we have seen is me clearly demonstrating with the law and the prophets how the gospel, the good news, is for the children of Israel, right? My opponent went to Luke 4 as his second scripture, right, where Christ identifies the gospel as what's rendered in Isaiah the 61st chapter. And we look at Isaiah the 61st chapter, it says, to all that mourn in Zion, right? The gospel is being proclaimed to these people, right? To those that mourn in Zion, right? Where their God reigns, and they're now being exalted to a place where they're ruling over their oppressors, where they're ruling over, all right, the other nations. The other nations are building up their walls. They are plowing their fields, while the Israelites are the kings and priests. So it's good news for the Israelites. You're now not a servant anymore. You're now not a prisoner anymore. You're now not a captive anymore, right? You are now a king. You are now a priest. And the people that had you captive, they're now servants. That's the good news. Now, let's put it this way. If you tell me that black people have to go back into slavery to white people again, guess what? That's not good news. But if you tell me that, hey, black people are going to rule over white people who had them in slavery, and now white people are going to be slaves to them, guess what? That's good news for black people, not so good news for the white people. This is exactly what's going on right here in Isaiah, the 61st chapter, who Hamashiach Yahawashi, who the world literally calls Jesus Christ, all right? The Savior and the King is identifying as the gospel, right? The gospel entails a day of vengeance of the God of the Israelites, for the Israelites. The gospel entails the other nations plowing fields, dressing vines, while the children of Israel are laying up, being priests, all right, and being kings. If you ask me, that's good news for me, not so good news for the other people. With that, I yield.
All right, all right. That is going to be the conclusion of the official debate. Everybody make sure if you have those pink tickets that you click the verses link at the top and become a member. Make sure you all follow the debaters for the time that they put in to edifying you this evening. So now, with that, I have a question for the debaters, Brother Zadok and Ariala. Do you all want to continue in an open dialogue for, let's say, 10 minutes? Or would you like to have questions for the audience or some type of combination of both?
I personally would love for you to open up that chat so I could get it in with a couple of people who might agree or disagree with me. I would love to hear it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
where
can
they
get the
at?
chat. We can get the chat back opened up because it's the the conclusion of the debate. So let's go ahead and open up that
Bro, you
chat.
got to answer Miles' question though. Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody answered Miles' question.
Oh, I'm
He gave
sorry.
two options. Yeah, he
I'm
gave
sorry.
two options. Either
a 10, did y'all want to do a 10-minute back and forth and take questions, or was you choosing like either or? Was you choosing one or the other
Oh,
or
my
both?
bad, Cap. I wasn't clear enough. Yeah, I would love to take questions. I would love for him to, bring people for questions. That was my choice.
Okay. Ariella?
Salaki, yeah, I'm cool with that.
Questions.
Huh. Now, what about now? Okay, so we got the questions out. What about a back and forth? Do y'all want to do that, or y'all just want to do questions?
We can do both. That's fine with me.
Okay, Zadok, you fine with
Real
that as
quick,
well?
hey, Salaka,
Yeah, that's
sir.
not a problem.
Salaka,
Go
sir.
ahead.
If we're gonna do a 10-minute answering questions, we have to put a time limit on the answers for the questions. So if the 20-minute round was 2 minutes, are we gonna do 1 minute for the 10-minute
No,
rounds?
usually.
Somebody ask them a question.
Salakia,
Okay,
so that
go
the
ahead, man.
10 minutes is just the. I got you. Yeah, the 10 minutes is just a back and forth. So that's separate from the questions. They're just kind of going back and forth at each other. It's not organized. It's not any rules per se. We just want to make sure that both parties are able to make their points
What if
precise and
somebody,
concise.
real quick, Matt? What if somebody, if I ask somebody a question and they start talking for 5 minutes, like, do we have to put a
It's
No,
cap on
no, it
that?
ain't
Like,
for us.
it
It's
is
not
what it
for us on
is.
this. Yeah, it's not
it is
for
what
us
it
on the
is. Okay,
stage. Yeah, it's
okay.
just between Zadok and Ariella. They get it in, they muscle in. If Ariella's able to talk for 5 minutes straight and Zadok let him, that's on him. That ain't on us.
Right. So that's how that will work. 10 minutes. There's no, I'm not gonna, butt in or anything like that. Hopefully for the decorum's sake that you guys will, cooperate with each other for this 10 minutes. And then afterwards we'll take 3 questions apiece. All right. Questions for Zadok, questions for Ariala. And it has to be sincere questions. All right. You have to be opposing the other point of view in order for you to be selected. Okay. So we'll do the 10 minutes first. All right. And then we will go into questions from the audience. So again, for this 10 minutes, it's just you guys going at it. You guys get in there where you fit in. Let's get it in.
All right. Hey, bro, I want to ask you another question. Seeing that you have put that you put that last question on the table to me about the slaves. Now, when you were bringing up the 1865, the 1865 date, can you tell me what you were going for in particular there? Because I addressed the Emancipation Proclamation, but that's clearly what you weren't referencing. Can you enlighten me on that?
Yeah, so again, June 19th, 1865 is we commemorate that now. It's now a national holiday. It's called Juneteenth. Right? This is when the slaves in Texas found out that they are now free. They don't have to work for massa anymore. Right? These people can't whip their backs in, right, for not picking enough cotton, right? That's what I was referring to. So when that news got to those brothers and sisters on those plantations who probably had scars on their back, right, feet hurting, sweating all damn day, right? Guess what? It was good news for them that they did not have to endure that anymore, right? Whether emancipation or any of that was true, because again, right now we're still not free, right? But guess what? We're not in hardcore chattel slavery anymore. And guess what? That's better news than what we were experiencing, right? Those 400 years that we were in slavery, right? Those 200 plus years that we were in slavery, Slack it, right? So
Right.
that's what I was asking about. Was that good news when that report, right, came to Texas? Let's say the Johnson plantation in Irvine, Texas, right? Was it good news for Master Irvine, or was it good news, all right, for old Moses, all right, in the cotton field? That's what
No,
my
that
question was about.
No, that was good news for the slaves when the Union soldiers came. I forget the name of the colonel or the captain, but when them Union soldiers came and they actually had to stay for 2 months just so the Negroes could have a sense of freedom. No, that was definitely good news for them. So when I answered according to the 1863, I was thinking Emancipation Proclamation, and you were thinking that Texas. So my date was totally screwed up. I just wanted to be honest and corrected that, because when you said I'm not talking about the Emancipation Proclamation 2 years earlier, that was my bad. So I just wanted to say that I understood your question, and know once the union came and said, "Hey, y'all not supposed to be here no more. Y'all free." And like you said, now we keep Juneteenth as a federal day for the last couple of years because of that. No, that was definitely good news for the slaves. 100%.
Okay, I appreciate your honesty there. Now, with that said, in like fashion, right? We didn't get a chance to go over this particular scripture,
Hmm.
right? But this also coincides exactly with what Isaiah says in chapter 60 and verse 61, where we see the gospel vehemently pronounced, right? In Isaiah 14, right? It says, For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage wherewith thou was made to serve. Right. So
Hmm.
with that said, right, and coinciding with the gospel, is it good news for the strangers who are now have to be the captives of the Israelites? Is that good news? Yes or no?
Well, yes, that is good news. And I think I answered you earlier. The reason why I say that is because Israel becoming the lead of nations, not just any old body, but obedient Israel, restored in covenant, being perfectly obedient to Yah, their leadership, in my opinion, brother, is good news for the nations because the nations will now be able to inherit reward from Yah through obedience. What does that mean? You said it earlier that the children of Israel would teach the people their ways. The children of Israel are basically here to fashion the nations in the fashion that Yahweh wants it. And so, like what text is that? That Isaiah 49, right? That's the one that Paul quoted in Acts 13 when he was preaching in the synagogue. And it says the Jews spoke against his words, and the Gentiles were actually glad that they heard that salvation was for them. And then when Paul and them told them that seeing that you reject salvation, which is promised unto you, lo, we go unto the Gentiles. He said, for it is written, I have given thee for a light to the Gentiles. He was quoting Isaiah 49 and 6. And in Isaiah 49 and 6, Yahweh says through the mouth of the prophet, it's a light thing that you should be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserved of Israel. I will also give you for a light to the nations, that you may be my salvation unto the ends of the earth. So what I'm saying is the nations can't get anything without Israel getting their redemption. And if Israel's redemption is what? Obedience and the end of oppression in the earth, and now Israel will be in charge of their oppressors, they're going to teach their oppressors the ways of Yah. That's good for them because other than that, brother, I don't think mankind would survive. It would only be Hebrew Israelites left on the planet and no other kind of people whatsoever. So yeah, that's good news for them. I don't give a damn if they like it. It's good news for them.
Okay, so let me ask you this, right? With that said, right? if if let's say there's a law that's passed and it says you niggas got to serve Chinese people now, right? Is that good news for us? We got to be slaves to Chinese people here in America. Is that good news? Yes or no?
Wait, say that again. You said if a law was passed and Chinese people told us what? Wait,
I
hold on.
said
That threw me off. Right?
I said, if a law was passed here in America, right,
Mhm.
that, hey, because just recently we had a whole anti-Asian hate bill, right? And guess who was getting blamed for all this so-called Asian hate?
Black
Niggas,
people. Right.
right? So
Right.
now, hypothetically, if a law was passed, say, because you so-called black people are showing so much hate to Asians, right? You guys now have to serve as slaves to Chinese people here in America. Is that good news for black people? Yes or no?
It wouldn't seem like good news at all, brother, if they going to oppress us. But I would say if they treated us fair and they treated us better than I guess if we had treated them foul and now they get the upper hand allegedly and they treat us foul, no, that's not good news. But you know that to me, that's just like the proverb. It's like this in my eyes. Good, I'm keeping it tall with you, straight up and down like 6 o'clock. It's like the Proverbs chapter 29 when it says the one who delicately brings up his servant from a child will have him become his son in the long run. It to me is just like what Joseph was to Potiphar. You can have a stranger who serves you so well and you trust everything in their hand. Abraham had a Syrian who it says, while Isaac was a grown man, it said Abraham called his elder servant who ruled everything he had, and that's the one he sent to go get Rebecca for Isaac. So it depends on what kind of master you is. No, it's not good news if the Chinese going to oppress us and treat us like crap. But if they're going to be righteous people toward us, then it would be good news.
Okay, so now Revelation chapter 2, right?
Yeah.
And I'll start at verse 24. It says, "But unto you I say, to the rest of the in Thyatira, as many as have not this doctrine, and which have not known the depths of Satan as they speak, I will put upon you none other burden, but that which ye have already, hold fast till I come. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations, and he, the one who overcomes, shall rule them." Who's the them? The nations, "with a rod of iron, as the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father." Is that good news for the people who are being broken with a rod of iron? Yes or no?
Well, yes, it's good news for them because once again, I'm not. How can I say this to not sound funny? Because of what I think that the gospel is. First, Israel was given all of this, and Israel broke it and messed it up, and we suffering for them consequences. And now Yahweh gonna give us back what He did by promise, not necessarily because we're gonna be obedient first, but because He loved us so. Now, in Him loving us and giving Israel power over the nations, or even giving the saved of the nations, because I believe in that too, power over the nations. When it says he shall rule them with a rod of iron, brother, I'm understanding that the commandments and the execution for what? Bringing idolatry into the earth, bringing murder, dishonoring of parents, any thievery, fornication, adultery. All of these things are what the children of Israel will have in their hand under the orders of Messiah in order to what? Fuse the nations into righteousness. So even though it may not seem good to them if they want to live by their flesh, once they're broken, like it says according to the book of Ezekiel, I'm sorry, Zechariah 14, the nations, the people who are left of all the nations that came against Jerusalem will be commanded to come up year to year to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And then it says, whatever nation think they not going to come up, the Lord is going to put the plague on their land. And he used Egypt as an example and said, this will be the punishment of Egypt and any nation who refuse to come up. So, brother, if a nation be obedient and come up, as Yahweh promises, from one new moon to another and from one Sabbath day to another, shall all flesh come to worship. Bro, that's good news.
That's 10. That is 10 minutes. Would
Okay.
y'all
Okay.
like to continue, or
Yeah,
y'all want me to
I
wrap
got
it up?
one more. I
One
got
more
one more.
question. You let them get it. This is solid.
All praises, right? So, all right, so cool. I hear you. Don't make sense to me, but I hear you, right?
Got
So, rods of iron, beating people into shivers, right? Beating people into pieces, right? You said that that's good. So now let's put it in a practical application. And I'm not sure what year it was. It was 1990 something, maybe 92, when Rodney King got his ass beat, right, by the cops, right? They beat him with batons, right, with rods of iron. Was that good for brother Rodney King to get beat with rods of iron by the LAPD? Was that good? Yes or no?
nah, that wasn't good in any way.
Okay, so when Jesus Christ, Yahawashi, gives the Israelites power to have a rod of iron and to break in pieces the other nations, is that good for the other nations? Is that a good thing for them in their eyes? Are they going to see that as good?
I don't think they're going to see it as good, but that's if they're going to choose to be obedient. I think, or disobedient versus being obedient. I think it's Yeshua who said, "Whoso," he said, "Look, whoever this stone falls on shall be broken, but whoever it shall fall, it will grind him to powder." The first people that should fall on the stone and prefer it is the nation of Israel, which will be the remnant. But whoever it fall on, it will grind him to powder. That's what Yeshua did in prophesying the destruction of Jerusalem. So now when he sent forth his armies and when he sent forth his nation with that rod of correction, which is that disciplinary stick to break the sinful, natural, carnal will of the nations, whoever will be disobedient, upon them wrath and destruction. But whoever will be obedient, upon them, bro, life and peace.
Okay, so getting broken into shivers regardless is somehow good. Gotcha. All right,
It just
Joel 2.
depends on how it depends on how you're on how you're trying to interpret what the brokenness going to look like. I just described what I think it means by him breaking them with that rod.
Okay,
That's
so
all.
Joel 2:27 says, "And ye shall know that I'm in the midst of Israel, and that I'm the Lord your God, and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed." Go into verse 32, the last verse. It says, "And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as the Lord hath said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call." So we see that the Lord God is the God of Israel and only Israel. And then it goes and say that of whoever of the Israelites call upon me, they're going to be delivered. All right, thus saith the Lord. Right. Then we continue into Joel 3. Right. It says, "For behold, in those days," right, when the children of Israel are delivered, it says, "In those days and in that time when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem." The same thing that we read in Deuteronomy 30, where the children of Israel are being brought from all over the world, being brought back to the land of Israel, right, and being exalted, right? The captivity is being returned, right? It says, "I will
Mhm.
also gather all nations, and I will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and I will plead with them." That word for plead there is shapat, which means to judge, right?
Right.
"I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nation and part of my land." And then we go down a list of all these nations. We got Tyre and Zidon. We got who else? We got jump down to verse 9. It says, "Proclaim ye among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men draw near, let them come up, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be awakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about." So we see God prophesying the children of Israel being delivered and other nations being brought down to a valley to be destroyed. Is that good news for those people?
Well, no, it's not good news for them because that's their militaries and their powers that they trust in. When he said, let the nations build up and turn their agriculture budgets into war budgets, that don't mean every man, woman, and child that exists is coming. That means that their militaries are coming to do damage in their mind, but Yahweh gonna make them crush. According to the book of Zechariah 14, I don't even know what that is. He got flesh melting while they standing up, they eyes melting in their heads and all that. Sound like some nuclear radioactive stuff happening. So no, that's not going to be a good thing for the nations of the earth to suffer such a defeat initially. But as he says, for those who are left of all of those people, or even as he said, what is that? Is that the book of Amos chapter 3 when he talked about rebuilding up the waste of the tabernacles of David and all of that? No, that's Amos 9. I said Amos 3, my bad. And he said that the children of Israel would possess the remnant of Edom and all the heathen which are called by my name, saith Yahweh that doeth this. I'm gonna bring the captivity of my people again, and they're gonna plant vineyards and drink wine, and they're gonna make gardens and eat the fruit. And he said, I'm gonna plant them in their land, and they will be no more pulled out of their land. So in order to do this, brother, in order for the Israelites to never be touched again, God has to break the will of the planet. And I believe I'll end here in Jeremiah 25 is where he had actually said that what did he say? If the nations claim they not gonna drink, he said, tell them they gonna wring that cup out of my fury, because I have first punished the city called by my name and the people called by my name. So do everybody else think they gonna go unpunished? They will not go unpunished. I'm gonna call for a sword upon all the inhabitants of the earth. That's just what he gonna do. And once he done satiated that sword glittering and bathed in heaven, then he will start to reconstruct the earth in the image he want. And I believe that image starts with the redeemed of Israel leading the way. I appreciate the back and forth. I appreciate the question.
Okay, so God judging people, God killing people, God bringing a sword upon people. All of this stuff is good news. Hey, that's news to me. Now, Isaiah 2 talks about how in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains. And
Right.
shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. Right? It says, and many people shall go and say, come ye, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. And he, who's the he, Jacob, will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law. That word for law there is Torah, Torah, right? And the word of the Lord from Jerusalem, right? It says, and he, Jacob, shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not look against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore, right? So there's going to be world peace. There's going to be no more warfare. Cool, that's a good thing. That's good for everybody, right? But it says that the law shall go forth out of Zion, right? According to the law, here in Leviticus chapter 25, right? This is going to be coming out of Zion, and I wonder if you agree. It says, and I'll start at verse. This is Leviticus 25. Verse 43, it says, thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but thou shalt fear thy God. Who's that talking about? Thy brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
Verse 39 says, and if thy brother that dwelleth by thee waxeth poor and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant, right? So that word for bondservant literally means slave, right? It goes on to say, both thy bondmen and thy bondsmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of
Right.
them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. Moreover, the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they beget in your land, they shall be your possession. And ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever, but over your brethren, the children of Israel, ye shall not rule over one another with rigor, right? So this
Right.
law is going to go forth out of Zion. All right. So Israelites are going to have the ability to purchase slaves of the other nations, rule over them with rigor, right? Their children are going to be passed down as those slaves forever. Now,
Right.
if black people, right, have to go back into slavery to white people and have children, and those children be slaves, is that a good thing for black people? Yes or no?
Not if they was gonna treat us like the way that they treated our fathers before. I think that
It says rigor.
compa- well, rigor. I mean, well, working hard. You know, hey, people work. Hey, they're gonna work you hard. I understand that. But what I'm saying to you is that this is all about how Yahweh wants to set things up. So if at the end of the day, the nations are going to come in and out of that city, and they're going to, and the saved of the nations are going to be healed, then the order that Yahweh sets up, that's what they find a joy in. It's just like women who got to serve men, and they're told, hey, keep silence in the church. Women don't lead. Women don't do this, that, and the third. But the apostle says, but they shall be saved in childbearing. That's like me asking, hey, is that good for the woman to be in subjection and that she got to follow the lead of the man, that the man is her head? So Israel being the head of the nations, I think is good for the woman if she understands how Yahweh has set things up. But if her husband is an oppressor, and if he's a tyrant, she's going to eventually rebel. And if he's a stern yet fair man, he will be loved forever. And I think that Israel being the head of the nations is no different than a man being the head of his wife and being the head of his children and his entire house. He might be the head of his brothers if he the firstborn. They got to all follow his lead. This is why Yahweh said he going to give Israel Edom, his brother, and the heathen that are called by his name. So now it just depends on how we want to describe Israel treating their servants and how Israel doing things. And you went to the law, but we know that the law says, hey, man, do not oppress the stranger. He said, for you know the heart of a stranger, seeing you were strangers in Egypt. So we know what kind of stranger he talking about because he juxtaposes it against you being in a foreign land, and you know how it is to be treated like trash. So when they come into your land, don't you oppress them, but them working hard, and you gonna get every bit of labor out of them to take care of them because they only have inheritance by living under you and serving you. That's just what that got to be. I ain't got no problem with what the text say. And them servants, brother, will probably be like the sons of Jonadab, the Rechabite, the Midianite. In Jeremiah 35, Yahweh said these strangers who were non-Israelites kept the covenant of their father so impressive that Yahweh said there will not fail a man of this Midianite family to stand before me forever in Israel. He said, but Israel, seeing they listened to their daddy and kept the commandment, but y'all couldn't keep y'all promise, I'm going to whoop on your head, but know when everything is finished. These kind of strangers, they going to have a good name in the sight of Yahweh. So it just depends on how far and broad we want to go into the text.
Well, so what you did, your last couple like stanzas of that answer shows that you don't really understand what's going on here in Leviticus 25. It says again, verse 39, if thy brother, right? Leviticus 19 establishes who your brother is. The brother is the children of thy people. If your
Gotcha.
brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee, right? An Israelite can be sold unto another Israelite, right? Your brother. Thou shalt not compel him, your brother, to serve as a bond servant, right? That word in the Hebrew is ibad, right? You
Mhm.
cannot make him serve as an ibad, right? A servant, right? A slave, okay? That's what is being said. And then at the end, right, it says, no, it goes on to say, but as an hired servant, right? And as a sojourner, right? So an Israelite can be a sojourner. Elijah's called a sojourner in what was it in Tishbe, right? So Israelites can be sojourners, meaning they're not native to that particular land, right? Now and then it goes on to say, verse 45. Moreover, the children of the strangers, right? There's two types of strangers in the Hebrew, right? You have Ben Nakarya, which means the sons of the aliens, and then you have Gar. Gar can be an Israelite, it can be a heathen, depending on the context. But Ben Nakar, heathen, right? Son of the alien. It says, of them shall ye buy. You can purchase these people and of their families that are with you, which they beget in your land, and they shall be your possession. And ye shall take them as an inheritance, meaning I can pass them down. Chattel slavery. The law of God is going to be going forth out of Zion, all right, in the end days, right? It says, to inherit them for possession, they shall be your bondmen forever, but over your brethren, who? The children of Israel, ye shall not rule over one another with rigor. So the juxtaposition is, hey, the Israelites, you can't rule over them with rigor. But these other people, you can rule over them with rigor. So now my question is this. Is it racist or is it bad for me to say, hey, white people can enslave black people, right? But they cannot enslave other white people. Is that bad, yes or no?
Well, I don't. Well, yeah, no, that's actually a good thing. But the reason why I say that is because
What?
actually, it's a good thing for a white man to not be able to enslave another white man forever. See, this is the
No,
thing.
I'm asking about the black. Is it okay for a white man to enslave black people forever, make them rule over them with rigor, literally own them and their children forever and ever, and pass it down? But they can't do that to their fellow white comrades, right?
if
Is
if
that
that's
good
what
or
Yahweh,
bad?
if that's what Yahweh told them, then yes, brother, it's a good thing. See, at the end of the day, I
Wow.
don't got no problem with the text. Now let me explain my position. See, at the end of the day, the way that you put that, the Israelite is a servant, but the rigor is that he, because he's in the land of his inheritance, he could not remain in that position forever unless he chose it. Now we know that if we go further into the law, the Israelite, when you let him go in the seventh year, can say, you know what? I ain't trying to go nowhere, because he may have gotten a wife from you and produced children with you. And in the seventh year, let him go free. But guess what? That woman, who is more than likely a stranger, she have kids for him. His kids. You get to keep the kids produced by an Israelite male who worked for you for 6 years, and in the seventh year you let him go. But he's so loving you that he like, you know what? I love my master and my family. This is what the Israelites say. I love my master. Who this Israelite call him master? His fellow Hebrew who was his master for 6 years. And if he decides and say that, then there would be this ritual of taking his ear and pinning it to the door with an awl. And it was a sign that this Israelite now by choice has made himself a servant to this Israelite for the rest of his life. So guess what? If he felt good staying there, it's more than likely his children aren't treated like crap. nor his wife treated like crap. And when you say chattel, the whole thing is that the children of Israel in their land will be in charge of and will possess anybody who's going to come and live there, and that's going to be a good thing for them when they live in a land that's blessed. So brother, it when the stranger who you have a perpetual bond servitude over, and that's only under the old covenant, the way that you were breaking down that Leviticus 25. If Israel would have kept the law out in here, because I do want, if we got time, I would love to hear something from the audience. If the Israelites would have kept the commandments perfectly, the Lord says that their entire land would be blessed, and there would be no such thing as a barren womb of male or female or of their cattle in all thy land, and there will be no diseases or plagues upon you. So that means the stranger who live in Israel land, when Israel don't get no famine put on them ever, that stranger lives in a plenteous land. When the land rests in the seventh year, because Israel gonna keep the land Sabbath, but we know according to Leviticus 26, unfortunately, they didn't do it right. When Israel get to eat of that store, them strangers ain't gonna be out in the field working during that land Sabbath either. So when Israel rests, those who are among them rest. And when Israel move forward, those who are among them move forward. So it's just all about how you want to explain it. And once again, Exodus 22 and Exodus 23 tells the Israelite, you shall not vex nor oppress the stranger. So because the stranger got to work hard for you to live among you, that don't mean you're
Not the same.
oppressing them.
You're conflating that
We are
stranger.
at 30
I
minutes,
don't agree
gentlemen.
with you.
30
We,
minutes we're at.
we
You're
Okay.
conflating that.
Okay.
I
I'm good.
appreciate
I'm
it.
good. I'm
That's
good. But I'm not
you're
conflating it, brother. We can have a whole
you
nother
are
discussion
emphatic.
on that.
You
I'm
are
not
emphatic.
conflating that.
Hold on. You are
Well,
emphatically
at this
conflating it.
point, at
We're
this
talking.
point, we do have a debate recap room at the top where you gentlemen can continue the back and forth dialogue. I do want to make sure that if you guys want, we can get questions from the audience.
That's cool.